agony for you, wasn't it? Well, it was for me, so it must have been for you. Do you know, I've never been able to get it right. And, you know, I started when I was 6. Well, I was made to play that in the front room at home to entertain our guests. To entertain. Now, that's one of the strange characteristics of the restless human animal. He needs to be entertained. Now, most other animals are quite content with a good feed, a good wife or husband, and a nice lie down. That's all. No, but not the human animal. He must be entertained as well. All right, then, here's a bit more, just in case you're getting restless. Well, you see, it's no good. You can't get away from it. It's sheer cruelty. Well, it's cruelty to you and cruelty to me. But then, you see, entertainment is cruel. It's very cruel. Not so long ago, we used to entertain ourselves by throwing our fellow human beings to the lions. Some say, of course, that at least we were being kind to the lions. And that in all probability, the unfortunate humans really liked it, but I don't think so, no. There is no doubt that entertainment is cruel, and everybody has to suffer. You suffer, I suffer. And so, when I was a child, I found that the best entertainment was the one where you cut out the audience altogether and just entertained yourself. Now, the best way to entertain yourself, if you can think of nothing else to do, is to flip your bottom lip with your finger, like this. Well, I can think of worse ways of entertaining yourself. But then, of course, you do as a child get a little bit more ambitious with a thing like that. You know, that gets a bit boring after a time. And so you try and fit in a little bit of a tune. Something like this. Well, see, even that gets a little tiresome after a while. And the human animal is a very ambitious thing, you know, it goes on. And when I was a child, we used to try and do one of these more flamboyant sort of rhythms, one of these Spanish ones. But of course, there'd always be a bit of an audience lurking somewhere. And when I did that, they would say, "Oh, look, do shut up, for goodness sake." Shut up, will you? And so, I'd have to shut up. I was inflicting a certain amount of cruelty on my audience, even at that early age. And I knew it. I knew that I could drive them mad with Well then, I found another way of entertaining myself. All children do this, I think. You just sing to yourself. It's the basis of all folk music, in a way. Just extemporizing in that drooly, wandery, childish way. You know the sort of thing. I went to school yesterday afternoon, and then I went home and had my tea. I saw a man, and he was eating a pomegranate. spit in the pips through Mrs. Williams's window. Mrs. Williams came and chased him with a big broom. But she slipped down and broke her leg. Our teacher's a fool. But there was always an audience prowling about to say, oh, look, do shut up, for goodness sake. Mummy's very tired. And so I had to shut up. And this was very unfair indeed. Because on Saturday evenings, I was taken into the front room to be entertained. And I was sat on a horsehair sofa. Now, I don't know if you've ever sat on a horsehair sofa in short trousers. But that's pretty good entertainment to start with. And it's pretty galling to have to sit there with the remains of an irritable stallion probing your sensitive areas. And to have to listen to Mr. Cecil Law sing a folk song as well. Mr. Cecil Law, who used to sing unaccompanied folk songs that were just like mine, in a way. As I rode down one May morning, so late, I chanced upon a fair young maid. Oh my, but she was early. I said, my dear, will you ride with me? Oh, ride with me, sweet Kate. She said, I got up early. And now it's getting late. What a sauce. Almost the same sort of songs that I used to sing myself. And he always got a round of applause. And I always got a clip round the ear. It was most unfair. Most unfair. Well, then he used to do an encore. Another very peculiar effort. He'd been abroad, this chap. He'd been to Ireland, I think. Because he used to stand up and do this. Well, it wasn't as good as my... All very unfair. Still, we all had to do something. We were honour and duty-bound to entertain one another. There was no radio and there was no television. So for goodness sake, who's next to do something? Well, Mr. Billy Wiley could do something. It wasn't much, but it was something. He used to entertain wherever he went by tapping a fountain pen on his teeth. Like this. Well, he tried. He used to do a bit better than that. He used to do, this was his big opus, the sailor's hornpipe. The sailor's hornpipe. And it was something. I always enjoyed him. It was entertaining. But most of the time, we had singers. If only there were more fountain pen teeth tappers and conjurers and paper tearers and fire eaters. But no, we had mostly singers. There was Mr. Glottis. Now, what on earth made Mr. Glottis think he could entertain, I don't know. He had all the worst faults any singer can possibly have. He had a throttled voice. He could never get away to a clean start. He often forgot his words. And he was a wobbler. A wobbler. Well, the only way he could get a vibrato or a tremolo into his voice was by wobbling his head, like this. Sounded like a sheep being tickled. And he always announced his own songs, like this. Right, well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I think I'd like to sing for you, Who is Sylvia, eh? Who is Sylvia? Yes. No harm in asking, is there? No, no. Who is Sylvia, then? Right, thank you. Who is Sylvia? Right, yeah, very good. Yes. Yes. Oh, I missed that, didn't I? Oh. Oh, I'm very sorry, yes. Look, can we have the last bar? Just... Thanks. Oh, it's Sylvia, what is she, that all our swains command her? Holy fair and wise is she, that God's grace has delighted her. Oh, that admired she might be, that admired she might be. Thank you very much. It was so bad that no one could really congratulate Mr. Glottis on his performance. But they always said nice things about the song to make him feel at ease. Oh, yes, lovely song that. Oh, yes, well, of course, Schubert is so good, isn't he? Oh, yes, and the words are just right, aren't they? Yeah. Mr. Glottis always behaved as though he'd written the whole lot himself. Oh, yes, not bad, really, no. One of my favourites, I think, yes. Well, then we had Mr. Gumboil to entertain. Now, George Gumboil could sing, but fate had struck him a nasty blow. In the mouth. He'd lost his own natural teeth at a very early age, and he'd never been able to get a set to fit him properly. They were always very, very loose. Consequently, he daren't open his mouth more than about 1/8 of an inch in case his teeth flew out and bit the accompanist. And so, with clenched teeth and a fair spray of spittle, he used to damp his audience down with the floral dance.
As I walked out on a summer's night when the stars in heaven were shining bright, far away from the footlights glare, into the sweet and scented air of a great old Cornish town. Born from afar on a gentle breeze, joining the murmur of summer seas, distant sounds of an old world dance, played by a village band, perchance, on the corner of mere gay flow of timber.
Well, poor George... Poor George realised that was very uncomfortable for himself and for his audience. And so sometimes he used to try the same song with his teeth out. Like this.
As I walked out on a summer's night when the stars in heaven were shining bright, far away from the footlights' glare, into the sweet and scented air of a great old Cornish town. Born from afar on a gentle breeze, joining the murmur of summer sea, distant sounds of an old world dance, played by a village band perchance on the common gatefull of Tyndall.
That wasn't much of a do either. And then George Gumboil discovered some false teeth adhesive. It was marvellous stuff. It stuck his teeth solid to his jaws. He could sing wide open and they wouldn't budge. But things never went quite right for George because his teeth developed a strange whistle when he sang. Well, people used to wonder where it was coming from and look under the chairs and that. But it was George, all right. And he still persevered with the floral dance.
As I walked out on the summer's night when the stars in heaven were shining bright, far away from the footlights' glare, into the sweet and scented air of a quaint old Cornish town. Born from afar on a gentle breeze, joining the murmur of summer seas, distant sounds of an old world dance, played by a village band perchance, on the corner came from the hall the Tyndall.
Then we had Mrs. Wishart. Now, Mrs. Wishart was a contralto, and she was quite a good one, really. But you've never heard a single word she said. Well, she knew what the words were, and it was up to you to know them too, because Mrs. Wishart could not sing and say words at the same time. The result was a noise like somebody playing a musical saw. She sang songs of the North. And still they came, the singers. There was Major and Mrs. Scabbard. They always sang duets of the question and answer type. Unfortunately, Major Scabbard was a bit difficult to understand. Well, he was getting rather old, and he no longer bothered to sound his consonants. And his body talked a bit like that. You had to translate him. It was like finding out what the baby was saying. For instance, if he made a noise like this, I say, might you be good enough, Bobby, talk, will you? That meant, I say, I wonder if you'd be good enough to pass me the salt, will you? And if he said, I say, rather not be so day, don't think I'd go very far. That meant, I say, rather a nasty, cold, beastly day today, I don't think I should go very far. Now, Major Scabbard married Mrs. Scabbard in foreign parts. And they used to sing the Keys of Canterbury. Oh, madam, I will give to you the key to Canterbury, and all the bells in London ring to make it merry. You will be my joy, but waiting only there, and walk along the beat anywhere.
Oh no, I won't accept from you the keys of Canterbury, and all the bells in London to ring to make us merry. I will not be so joy, so sweet and only dear, to walk along with you anywhere. Oh, madam, I will give to you a little golden bell to ring for all your turbans and make them turby well. If you will be my joy, my sweet and only dear, and walk along with me anywhere. Oh no, I'll not accept for you a little golden bell to ring for all the servants and make them serve me well. I will for peace of joy, so sweet and only dear, no walk along with you anywhere.
Well, they did try very hard. And then we had Mr. Bill Green. Now, I always found Mr. Bill Green quite entertaining because he used to do impressions of the countryside. And he was really rather good at it. The trouble was, he'd got a shocking cough. And very often, during his act, he used to break out into a terrible fit of coughing. It was because of the way he treated his throat, I think. But he was always very apologetic about it. Whenever he coughed, he always said, sorry, and continued. Now, to entertain us, he used to do something like this.
Well, but sorry. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what a lovely day it's been again today. So why not come along a high and go for a walk into the countryside? And there we can listen to the sounds of nature, to the birds a-singing in the trees. Why, look over there. If it isn't old George, a-sawing up of a bit of wood. Here's old George, a-sawing up of a bit of wood. Sorry. Well, now, let's go through Farmer Giles' farmyard and listen to the sounds of some of the animals therein. Sorry. No, look here what's coming down the road. There's a flock of sheep, and a sheepdog, and a shepherd. And blow me, if there isn't one of the old motor cars trying to get through a lot of them. Here they comes now. Sorry. Well, the time's getting on, and we better be getting off home. So we'll go back through the woods. I think that all the birds have gone to bed, except perhaps just the one.
and I think the owls are coming out. Sorry. It's a wet and windy night for owls. And before we go, we'll just say goodbye to Farmer Giles's old horse Dobbin, shall we? Well, goodbye then, Dobbin, old fella. Goodbye.
Well, I thought that was quite entertaining because it wasn't singing. You see, we used to get such a lot of singing. Everybody sang. They still do. But it just wasn't the sort of stuff to keep a little boy quiet on a horsehair sofa in short trousers. We used to get great doses of Mr. Martin Vowles. Now, Mr. Martin Vowles was a tenor. And he was held in very high esteem, was Mr. Martin Vowles, because he'd had his voice trained. Whenever he got up to sing, people always spoke with great respect about Mr. Martin Vowles' trained voice. They would say to one another, "Oh, yes, dear, of course, you realize that Mr. Vowles has had his voice trained, don't you?" And they would say, "Oh, yes, you can always tell a trained voice, can't you?" You certainly could. You see, Mr. Vowles had been trained as a choir boy somewhere. One of those choir boys who never, ever sing, Amen. They always seem to sing, Amen. Mr. Vowles was so keen on making a beautiful noise, he entirely forgot about the pronunciation of the words. Now, to entertain us, he used to shunt off with his trained voice with a song called Where'er You Walk. Rotten singing, rotten entertainment, forcing people to sit and listen so that you could wallow in your own self-indulgent tenor tremulo. Very selfish. But now, Mr. Porter wasn't selfish. Well, he knew what people really liked, and he let them have it. Well, I liked it at any rate, because Mr. Porter used to sing a song called The Old Sow. There was an old farmer at an old sow. Idly, Susanna's a funnyful man. Idly, Susanna's a funnyful man. Sing classical ring tra la. Susanna's a funnyful man. Idly, Susanna's a funnyful man. Now these three pigs, they made good bacon, 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 idly aching. Susanna's a funnyful man, idly. Susanna's a funnyful man. Sing classical ring tra la. Susanna's a funnyful man, idly. Susanna's a funnyful man. Well, that appealed to me too. Well, there weren't many singers about who could make those sort of noises with their singing. I mean, how much more entertaining Mr. Martin Vowles, the tenor, would have been if he'd put some amusing noises into his songs, into his Where'er You Walk.
Van der Glied, shall crowd into.
You must admit that would have been good entertainment. Now, Mrs. Dropmore was quite good entertainment too. Mrs. Dropmore was a contralto. She was one of those enormous, emotional contraltos, and she trembled as she sang, like a fresh eruption of foam rubber. And she had a tremendous voice, a devastating voice. Now, you've probably heard that there are certain singers who, if you put a wine glass on a table, they can, by pitching their voices at the correct pitch and using the right volume, they can smash a wine glass with their voices. Well, now, whether this is true or not, I don't know, because I've never seen it done. But Mrs. Dropmore once broke a bronze statuette on our mantelpiece. The horse's head dropped right off. Now, Mrs. Dropmore's favourite song was Softly Awakes My Heart.
Once again I do implore that once again then say that you adore me.
Well, it was enough to frighten a small child. Used to frighten me. And then we used to get Mr. Dropmore. Well, now, I don't want to be nasty about Leonard Dropmore, because I don't think that he really wore the trousers in that household. Mrs. Dropmore did, and they were made of buckram or something, I think. You see, Leonard Dropmore didn't want to sing. Leonard Dropmore couldn't sing. Mrs. Dropmore made Leonard Dropmore sing. You see, she couldn't understand why people didn't want to sing. She had such a beautiful voice herself. She used to say,
"Oh, of course, it's ridiculous. Everybody can sing. You know, Leonard didn't think he could sing until he met me. And I taught him. And you know, Leonard has got a really very nice lyric tenor. Leonard, why don't you try the Rutland Boughton tonight?"
She always called it the Rutland Boughton. She called it the Rutland Boughton because she was quite fond of Leonard, and she didn't want to ask him to sing the fairy song. Well, you see, Leonard had got a rotten voice and not much sense of music. He sang through his nose, and he came from Liverpool. And so the impression was rather misleading.
How beautiful they are, the lordly ones, who dwell in the hills, the hollow hills. Their faces like flowers, and their breath is the wind that wanders over summer meadows filled with dewy clover. Their limbs are more
white than shafts of moonshine. They are more fleet than the March winds. They laugh and are glad and are terrible. When their lances shake and glitter, every greenery trembles. And so sang Mrs. Dropmore and Leonard Dropmore. And so I used to sit on that irritable dead stallion Saturday after Saturday at the weekly Roman holiday. Very cruel, you know, on a young child. But as I've said before, everybody suffered. And perhaps we were quite well off in those days. I mean, imagine sitting on a horsehair sofa and listening to one of our contemporary songs.
The fields are bereft of vegetation. A lunatic moon screams in the sky. The city lies silent and dead. Oh God! What day is it today? I've walked this path 1,000 times before, yet all is so unfamiliar. The doors are bolted, shutters barred. Oh, blast! It's early closing day.
Well, which would you rather suffer as entertainment? That modern song or that dear little boy doing this? Ooh.